And we are back. Welcome to my Premier League predictions for Game Week 11. And as much as I'd like to sit here and have another moan about how it's been a terrible week for me as a Manchester United fan, instead, I'm going to say a massive thank you to you guys once again for helping me hit my next YouTube milestone, which is 1,250 subscribers, which is crazy to think about when we only hit 1,000 just a couple of weeks ago. So as always, thank you for all of your continued support. We've been getting so many views on the last few videos, and I love that you guys have now started to contribute in the comments as well, with your own thoughts and predictions as well. So make sure you keep that up if you are watching this video. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please do consider subscribing yourselves. We do predictions for all of the different competitions, and it's great to see how much engagement we have been getting recently. Now, for Game Week 11 itself, I have to say before we go into it, I think this is possibly the toughest set of predictions I've had to do so far this season. Well, obviously outside of all the Europa ones. But in terms of a Premier League predictions video, this is by far the toughest video we've had to do so far. So it's going to be a tough one. Let's see how we get on. And we start off with the early kickoff, and I really don't want to start with this one, but it is Fulham against Manchester United, and now I do get to have my small mini moan once again after what has been a horrendous week as a Manchester United fan. We now go into this game whereby if we lose, it looks like Erik ten Hag could lose his job, which I think would be a mistake because I just don't see who else is out there at the moment. But we will deal with that in separate videos as and when that decision happens. And ultimately, if we lose to Fulham, I think that is what's going to happen. But I have to take my bias hat off. I didn't do it for the Newcastle game in midweek, and that came back to bite me in the bum. So I'm taking my bias hat off for this one. I'm looking at the game subjectively and going, basically, Manchester United are all over the place. They cannot score to save their lives. Fulham are a very good team at home, especially defensively. So I don't see where Manchester United are going to score in this game. And then on the other hand, Manchester United are so disorganised at the moment that I think Fulham are going to be able to capitalise on the defensive frailties and the mental frailties in Manchester United at the moment. At the end of the day, Newcastle was Wednesday night. This game is Saturday lunchtime. There has been little to no time for Erik ten Hag to prepare for this game. And it's the prime opportunity for Fulham to pounce. So I'm going to go for 2-0 Fulham. I hope that doesn't cost Erik ten Hag his job. If it does, like I say, we'll deal with that in a few separate videos coming next week. But, I just think it's going to get from bad to worse for Manchester United right now. On to the first of the 3 o'clock kickoffs. And we start with Brentford taking on West Ham. And this is my point. These games this week could all go any which way. And I include the Man United game in that. Manchester United could very easily get a result of Fulham. And Brentford against West Ham could very easily go either way as well. And up until the Carabao Cup game against Arsenal, I would have quite comfortably sat here and said that Brentford should be taking this one the way that they've played recently and the way West Ham have played recently. However, against Arsenal, West Ham found their mojo again. So it puts a little bit of a dampener on how I think this game is going to go. But I'm going to stick with my initial gut instinct, which is that Brentford are going to take it. But I'm just going to make it a 2-1. I think it's going to be a really, really tight game. But I think in the end, Brentford are just going to edge it at home. Next up, it's Burnley against Crystal Palace. And again, who's to say? I think all 3 results are possible in this one. I think the most likely scenario is that once again, Burnley continue to try and play their possession-based attacking style of football. And it's just not been working in the Premier League. This is the sort of team that they could beat because, as we saw with the Tottenham game a couple of weeks ago, Palace really do like to just sit back and let teams have possession. But at the same time, that just plays into Crystal Palace's hands. And I just don't think Burnley are going to score against Crystal Palace. They're a very good side defensively. They did make a couple of mistakes against Tottenham, but ultimately, I think Burnley aren't even close to being in the same level as Tottenham right now. And I think Crystal Palace are going to hold Burnley out, and I think they're going to nick one at the other end. So I'm going to go for 1-0 to Crystal Palace. Next up, Everton against Brighton. Everton on a fantastic run of form themselves, winning in the Cup themselves, and of course, getting an incredible away win against West Ham in the Premier League last weekend. Brighton, on the other hand, are very much flip-flopping in their form at the moment. We spoke about that last week. And really, it's just about, can they produce the same sort of performances that they've been putting in at the start of the season? Can they get back to where they were? Right now, I'm not so sure. However, Everton's home form is nothing like their away form. It was a good result for them in the Cup in midweek, the sort of home result that they needed to kick-start their home form. So with all of those things combined, I can't split these two sides right now, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Next up, it's Man City against Bournemouth. And my word, the difficult fixtures just keep on. Look, obviously, this is probably by far and away the easiest one to predict this weekend. Obviously, I hope Bournemouth do pull off something, but I don't really see it happening the way that Bournemouth and City have respectively been playing recently. I'm going to go 5-0 to City. This really could be anything on their day. We know City are capable of scoring way more than that as well. So pray for Bournemouth this weekend. Hopefully they can get a result, but I can't see this being anything other than another City spanking. Next up, Sheffield United against Wolves in another game where I think all results could be possible here. With the loss of Pedro Neto, their most influential player, how is that going to affect Wolves? The good news for them is it didn't really affect them too much against Newcastle after he went off injured, so that should give them a little bit of hope going into this one. Sheffield United are just absolutely all over the place at the moment, both defensively and offensively. It's really looking tough to see where their next result is actually going to come from, and I think Wolves are in a position to beat Sheffield United this weekend, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Wolves. The final game on Saturday is Arsenal taking on Newcastle in a massive game towards the top of the Premier League. And like I say, once again, I think all three results are possible in this one. Arsenal have not been at their absolute best recently, but then neither have Newcastle. Newcastle's best performance in the last few weeks has been that game at Old Trafford, whereby it was their reserve team, not their first team. So could be interesting to see what sort of side Eddie Howe puts out for this one. I think it's going to be a very end-to-end game. I think both sides are still not at their best defensively at the moment, so I can see there being an awful lot of goals in this one. I'm going to go for 3-2, but I'm just going to edge it in favour of the home side and have it as a 3-2 win for Arsenal. But I think this could be a really, really entertaining game. And ultimately, I think in the end, Arsenal are just about going to nick it, but Newcastle more than capable of doing something there. On to Sunday, we start with Nottingham Forest against Aston Villa, and I think this is a slightly easier one to call based on recent form. Villa are just absolutely flying at the moment, but as we said last week, their away form hasn't quite been as good as their home form. Nottingham Forest, over the course of the last season or so, have been pretty decent at home, but I just think, again, they've not been quite at it to the level that you would expect of Nottingham Forest over the last few weeks. And it's a good opportunity for Villa to pick up yet another win. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Aston Villa. But again, who knows? Forest could definitely pull off something here. The main event of the weekend, the 4:30 kickoff on Sunday, is Luton Town taking on Liverpool. And, well, sorry, Dave. Again, as much as I'd love to say that at the Kenny, Luton can pull off a result against Liverpool, I just don't see it happening. I think it could be an incredible game. I think it could be really entertaining. It's the sort of fixture, as a partial Luton Town fan, that we all wanted to see. But defensively, Luton just aren't there. They're just not quite producing the sort of defensive performances I thought they could. And I think the way Liverpool attack, I think it's just going to be a little bit too overwhelming for Luton Town this weekend. I'm not going to do what I did last week and go for the 5-0 that I did to Aston Villa. I'm going to go for 3-0. I don't think Luton are going to score against Liverpool. I just think they're too good, both offensively and defensively, for Luton Town this weekend. And I'm going to go for 3-0 to Liverpool. And then the final game of the weekend, or should I say the Monday night football, is Tottenham Hotspur, the leaders of the Premier League, taking on Chelsea in the Mauricio Pochettino derby. I mean, realistically, the only result that should occur based on current form is a Tottenham win. And as much as I was impressed with how Chelsea had sort of recovered their form going into the Arsenal game, it's almost like those 15 minutes against Arsenal have then signalled another Chelsea collapse. And now going into this game, I just don't see it being any other result than a Spurs win. I'm going to go for 3-0 again, this time to the home side, which will see Tottenham extend their lead at the top of the Premier League table. Well, I say extend, maintain their lead at the top of the Premier League table over Manchester City and Arsenal. That is going to be it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching as always. Let me know down in the comments all of your thoughts ahead of another great weekend of Premier League action. I will be away this weekend, so there won't be an initial post-match reaction to the Fulham Manchester United game, but when I'm able to do so, I will give my reaction to that, probably most likely on Sunday morning. I will see you then.